I'm not pulling out of the driveway. We all know what that means. It's time for another Drive to Work, Coronavirus Edition. So using my time at home to interview interesting people all about magic. So another interesting person has joined us, Melissa DeTora. Welcome.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Today, we have a topic today, because you relatively recently, put together a brand new team called the Casual Play Team. So I want to talk a little bit, what does that mean? What is this team up to? And then we're going to talk about casual play and what casual play means.
Sounds good. So I guess I can start by talking about what the Casual Play Team is up to and why did we even make it in the first place? Well, a big reason why we made this team is because we are making more and more products these days, and we need more resources for playtesting these products, and we didn't really have an efficient way to playtest Commander. So it was really important to us to actually have a playtesting team dedicated to playtesting Commander, because it was not really something that was done as efficiently as we wanted to in the past. And like I said, as we're making more and more cards and sets, and especially Commander products, it's really important that we have ways to test them. So our team was born.
So one of the things that's always fascinated me, and I've written articles on this and stuff, is just what exactly casual play is. And I think there's no one single answer. I think casual play actually covers a bunch of different things. So I want to talk a little bit with you about what does casual play mean to you?
Sure. So as some of you may know, I come from a very competitive background. I've been a pro player in the past, but I've actually done a lot of different Magic playing in my life. I played lots of casual games, I played lots of Commander, and I played lots of tournament Magic. So for me, one thing that casual play means to me is something where you can just sit down and have a good time and have just very low stakes. You're not playing for any big prize. You're only playing to just have a good time with friends. There's nothing on the line. There's no tournament setting, and just low pressure games.
Yeah, one of the things that's interesting to me from a design standpoint is we have to think about, I'm big on psychology, right? Part of being a good game designer is understanding the end user. How are they using what you're going to use? And while there definitely are people that are very competitive, that, a big part of Magic is, can I make the best deck possible and can I maximize my win percentages? That there's a lot of people that's not the priority when they sit down to play a game of Magic. A lot of people, for example, is did I have a good time? Doesn't matter what I won or lost. Did I enjoy? Was the experience worthwhile? Did I have fun just interacting with my friends? And did I get to do things that were cool and different? Did I get to have an experience when I played? And that it's not that I didn't want to win, but that whether I won or not was not the defining quality of was it a good experience for me?
Yeah, definitely. And don't get me wrong, casual players do love to win. I mean, who doesn't love to win? But for me, what is a successful game of casual Magic is, did you get to do your awesome thing? Did you get to put together your sweet infinite combo? Did you get to put together your card draw engine and make a bunch of resources and that kind of thing? Or even something as simple as did I get to just attack my opponent to death with all of my sweet creatures? Right? So if I got to do my thing, regardless of if I won or lost, that's a successful game of Magic to me.
Right. A lot of things, it's interesting. When the game ends, I think one of the game designer things I always think about is, when the game ends, was it a net positive experience? Do you want to play this again? Did you have a good time? And that, I think it's very easy to get caught up in win. I mean, it's not that it's not that casual play cares about win. I mean, winning is fun. It's a goal. It gives you something to try to do. Obviously, you're trying to win the game. But whether, for example, there are games you could play where you won, but it was a miserable game. Maybe the person you were playing with was just being mean to you, or you just have experience where, look, I might have won the game, but the play experience was not something that meant something to me. And that's it's so important to me that we are making a product that people have a general positive experience with.
Yeah, totally. One thing that I asked myself is did my game actions matter in this game? Was I able to effectively interact? Did I have agency? Did I get to do my cool thing? Even if I lost, as long as I was able to make meaningful decisions in a game is something that I think is important for the play experience.
Yeah, another thing, I wrote an article about this, is something I call narrative equity. And the concept of narrative equity is that one of the things that people value is the ability to tell stories, right? Is that if I play a Magic game and something happened that I now have a new story that I get to tell my friends, and I get to share this story, that itself has a lot of value. And my example is at one of the world that was in Memphis, I believe, there was a new set coming out, and every R&D person who was at the event was given a card to play in. There was a multiplayer event, and we were saying, play this card in the event. No one had ever seen the card before, and just that's how we're going to show the people. That's how we're going to preview the card. It's just it'll show up at this event, and people will talk about it in the context of this game. And I didn't remember Colossus Chameleon.
Yeah, Chameleon Colossus.
Chameleon Colossus. And basically, during the game, I managed to attack and gain like 55,000 life. And I've told the story many times. I wrote an article about it. And like I was really, really happy because like, look, that was a pretty grandiose story, right? And people were like, well, did you win? I go, what does it matter? That's irrelevant to the story. It's irrelevant. I mean, and then the end of the story is I was one of the 2 people to win that game in advance. But whatever, like that wasn't the point of the story. And that a lot of what makes Magic, right, is the moments that happen or the experiences or the interactions, and that a lot of what we're trying to do is, hey, give you the tools so that awesome, amazing things can happen, and you bond with people and share things, and you can tell stories, and that, you know, on some level, if we can make you experience something that's really joyful and something that really helps you, that whether you win or not is not key to whether that is a positive thing.
Yeah. All right. I have a similar story. So first of all, I was at that Worlds in Memphis. That was my first World Championship. That was awesome. Great experience. It was like 2008. That was sweet. But anyway, that's not the story. But like similar thing to what you said about how you like had this really awesome moment. So I was playing in the original Theros pre-release, and there was this card, and unfortunately I don't remember the name, but it was a Hydra, and it like doubled the number of counters or something. I want to say it had Hero in the name or something, but I could be wrong about that.
Is it from Theros?
Yes.
Here, I'll look it up while you tell your story.
Yeah. So, like, we had this huge board stall. It's a pre-release, so super casual event, and, like, typically slower games, brand new cards, nobody knows what the cards do or whatever, so, like, the games tend to go a little bit longer. So I kept pumping this card over and over. Did we get the name of the card yet?
The 2 Hydras are Mistcutter Hydra and Pelucanos, but neither of those are the card you're talking about. Might have been
Maybe it was a different Theros set. Maybe it could have been Born of the Gods or something.
Okay, let me look. Keep going.
All right. Okay, now I need to know the name of this card. I think it's called Hero's Bane. Wait, what is this card? All right, anyway, like, I think you pay a mana cost and you double its counters, right?
Okay.
So, like, the game was going on forever and ever, and, like, both me and the opponent were building up mana, and nobody could attack because we had, like, a million creatures in play. And I got this Hero's Bane up to in the thousands of power, but I could not win with it. My opponent probably had a Death Touch creature or something, and, like, this creature did not have trample. But I remember, like, at the end of the game, I don't even remember who won, but, like, because that's not really the point. But I remember at the end of the game, I took a picture of what this card looked like with all the dice on it, and there were, like, easily, like, 10 D6s on this thing, you know, like, or more. I don't know. It was like D20s or something. It was pretty ridiculous how many dice were on this card. They could not even fit on the card. I was just spewing dice all over the table with how big this card was. That's it.
Primordial Hydra? That's not a Theros set. It doubles the number of counters each turn?
Yes.
Okay, so...
I'm sure somebody... Oh, I found it.
Okay. What is it? It is
Hero's Bane. But it's... Heroes is spelled weird. It's like Heroes with an apostrophe at the end, so it's Heroes apostrophe, Bane. And the activated ability is 4 mana, put X counters on this, where X is its power.
So one of the interesting things, we're going to get a little behind the scenes here. One of the things about design is you are somewhat at the mercy of the structure of the system. So, for example, when the end result of your system is play design, and play design is very geared toward thinking about constructed play, without even thinking about it, it's not like play design's trying to push this. It just, when that's the voice you hear, it just, whenever there's decisions to be made, it's just the loudest voices about constructed play. And that one of the things, I think the whole reason your team exists is like normally in the process, in the old system of sort of, design development, design was always in charge of kind of the casualness of play, right? A lot of what we're trying to do in the early part is pick themes and do things that are generally fun and exciting. And like, we're trying to pick things we think that are universally fun for people. And then as the set gets progress later, they start making the individual cards for constructed play. And so I think our jobs overlap a lot in that a lot of what we both do is, how do we make this fun? How do we make this lovable? How do we make, we want people to enjoy the game of Magic, and that, it's not, obviously making strong competitive cards, people love strong competitive cards. I'm not saying that can't be fun. And I don't want anybody to walk away saying winning can't be fun. Winning can be, I'm sure you have infinite stories of tournaments where like, oh my God, you managed to win and it was amazing. And there's great stories there. And that can be very, very fun. It's not like competitive is not fun. I don't want to like casual is fun and competitive is not fun. They're both can be fun. But it's just like, we want to make sure that everybody has the tools, so no matter what they care about, we've given you the tools to have a fun experience.
Yeah, so the thought is, if standard is fun and balanced, like that'll kind of trickle down into other formats where like other formats will also be fun if we're adding new fun and balanced cards into the environment, right? So that was kind of the thought there. So like that's a big reason why play design exists, is to just make sure that standard is fun and exciting and there's like lots of really cool things to do and stuff. So I was on play design for a very long time, as many of your listeners may know. So like a lot of what I say will kind of be about that here. But so a lot of what we did, or like what we still do, is like we'll play test and just find the cards that are fun and push on those. So like if there's a theme that's super, super fun, we want that to be strong. We want that to be the thing that people go to in standard. And then likewise, if something is super unfun, we're not going to make that one of the stronger cards. That particular card or theme might be fun for somebody, but if it's not fun for like the general player base, it's not really something that we're going to want to push on.
From a power level we were talking about, like not make it strong.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Like if something is fun, we're going to want to make it stronger in power level, so people have more fun with it. It shows up more often if it's stronger usually. But if it's not super fun, we're probably going to make it a little bit weaker, but like maybe still appealing to like those specific players who might like that kind of play pattern.
And another thing to keep in mind is we have some control over like certain formats push in certain directions. For example, standard is very, very sensitive to mana costs, in that, the difference between a card being played or not being played very much has to do with like, is there a window to play this card? Where something like Commander is a little bit slower. It's more forgiving for more expensive cards, for example, in a way that standard sometimes can't be. Like it's really, absolutely. Really hard to make a 6 mana card in standard that matters.
Yep, absolutely. That's something that we've been struggling with forever in play design. How do we make sweet 6 mana cards that are A, like worthwhile to put in your standard deck, and B, are fun? Like, take a look at a card like Dream Trawler. Like, this card had a lot of mixed reactions as far as, is this card fun? A lot of people didn't think it was fun, but this card as a 6 mana card had to be of that power level to see play in standard. And in non-standard formats, it's a pretty sweet card. Like, that card's a sweet commander card. It draws cards. It gets bigger. It gains life. Like, what more could you want out of your commander card? So, like, in general, the card is pretty sweet, but it was definitely a hard card to work on for standard.
Right, and Commander, for example, like one of the things, I talk about this a lot, how that Magic isn't really one game. It's kind of, Magic's more of a rule system than an individual game. There's a lot of ways to play, and that draft is very different than standard, which is very different than Commander and stuff. And that we also can sort of think about who's going to play it where. Like, your team is very dedicated in saying, hey, for example, Commander is a very popular format, and that there's things that Commander wants to do that other formats don't want to do, and that we can sort of fine-tune things that will see play in Commander that might not see play in other formats based on, Commander lets you do some things that is harder to do in other formats.
Yeah, for sure. In Commander, like, you can do a very wide variety of things. You know, it really comes down to like what color combination your commander is, or like what kind of build around your commander is. And like one thing that I think is great about Commander, something that you were talking about earlier about the stories and the experience, is like in Commander you can express yourself with your deck building, right? Like you can tell a really cool story just in the deck you build.
Yeah, another thing that Commander does really well, I don't know if people think about the structure of the 100 card, singleton, for example. The reason that's built into the system is one of the things that casual tends to enjoy more is what we call variance, right? That if you're a really competitive player, if I sit down with my deck, I want it to do the exact same thing as much as I can. Right? I want my deck to do something, be very consistent in what it does, and every game I want to win in the way that it does it. You know, consistency is really important on high-end competitive tournament play.
Yeah, exactly.
But in casual play, really you want the exact opposite, which is, I don't want the same thing happening all the time. I want something to happen that's never happened before. And so the reason Commander is a 100-card singleton rather than 60-card 4 of is the combinatorics means just... like the chance of playing a Commander game and playing the exact same Commander game, barring like tutoring or something, it's very low, right? Just the chance that you get the same combination of cards when you have so many more cards in your deck and so many less repeats, or no repeats, that's a big part of what makes Commander Commander.
Yep, and like similar to that is we make tons of high variance cards all the time, like any like dice rolling cards like from the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms set, or like coin flipping cards, or just cards that just pick things randomly. And like those cards are really fun in casual formats because they just give you a different experience every time. But if that card was, say, in a standard set, it's not really the type of card that we want to be on the highest levels of competition, right? Like imagine like the finals of a Pro Tour or something coming down to a coin flip, right? Like that's just not really the best experience for any of the players involved.
Yeah, and so one of the things we do, like for example, I'll talk unsets for example, because unsets are definitely very much in this camp. One of the guiding when I'm designing an unset is I turn the variance dial up all the way. Like if you've ever played, like Unstable is a good example, and Infinity does this too, but you guys haven't played Infinity yet. Unstable like was designed such that the chance of you having the same play experience between two games was just super high. Something like contraptions, like you have a completely different randomized deck every time you do it. So like my contraptions aren't going to play out the same way. Host Augment, it's all about combinatorics in that the left side and the right side, like every once in a while maybe they're the same, but you know, very different things can happen based on what order you draw your things. It can be very different. And like outside assistants talking to other people are huge variants. If I talk to my friend Bobby or my friend Cindy, they might not say the same thing. So, you know, there's die rolling, like the unsets specifically are very much like every possibility where we can make it higher variance, we make it higher variance. And that one of the things that the reason I really enjoy the unsets is there's this mindset that even competitive players have when they sit down, they go, well, I don't expect this to be competitive because crazy things are going to happen and I know they're going to happen. So I'm just going to enjoy the craziness of the experience. And that I wish more people in more games could just go, hey, I'm going to embrace the craziness, because that can be a lot of fun. Like if you're not trying to be competitive, if winning everything isn't the point, that it's very high variance is a huge amount of fun.
Yeah, for sure. I have a fun story about one of the unsets. It was Unstable. Not the one that's not out yet. The one that is
Unstable, yes.
out.
Unstable came out over.
So I'm working at Wizards, just, working at my desk, minding my own business. I was not in the playtest, but there was an Unstable playtest going on, and Dave Humphreys was in it. And if you guys don't know Dave Humphreys, he's a very competitive person. He's played in, like, a bunch of Pro Tours in the Hall of Fame, Like, I would guess Unstable is not really his thing. So,
but he was leading development at the time, by the way. Just part of the story is he was the lead developer of the set at the time. So continue your story.
I didn't even realize that. But anyway, this was a long time ago. So he plays a card that's like a Thoughtseize variant. So like the card is you ask a person next to you who's not in the game, hey, can you pick a card out of this player's hand? and have them discard it. So he plays that card and he says, okay, Melissa, you're right here. Can you look at his hand and choose a card and have them discard the card? And I'm like, sure, whatever, sure, I'll play along. So I look at the person's hand and he has like Bomb Rare and, like lots of irrelevant cards. I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to take the Bomb Rare so Dave doesn't lose the Bomb Rare. But what's the fun in that? I can't possibly do that. So I just take, some random irrelevant card, and I'm just like, I'm really sorry, Dave, but, like, I feel bad for you what's coming. And then, like, the opponent, of course, plays the Bomb Rare and crushes him with it. So, high variance. I could have just easily made the quote-unquote correct play and take the Bomb Rare like I was supposed to, but no, I wasn't doing that.
So I'm going to talk real quick about outside assistance, because when we first made Unstable, I introduced the idea of what if we asked other people things? And there was a lot of skepticism at the time when I first introduced that. They're like, well, why would you do that? And what I said is, look, two reasons. One is we need variance, and people are high variance. And two, it's fun to interact with other people. Like, it's fun, like, all of a sudden there's a story in which you, the person not even playing a game of Magic, got pulled into this game of Magic, and you affected the game in a way that was not something you normally get to do. And so we got a lot of notes, and people were like, we shouldn't do this and this and that. And then we started doing playtesting, and this kept coming up. There's a great story. Tim Aiden was one of our editors. And I think Ben Hayes, who Tim and Ben are friends, there's a card called Friend Slaver, where it's like Mind Slaver, but you get, instead of you taking over your opponent's turn, you get somebody else to take over your opponent's turn. And so wow. he had Tim take over his opponent's turn, and then Tim just killed him, and he's like, don't ask me to do that again. And then that's a great story. That's a great experience. That's a great story. And that's the kind of thing that's the reason that outside assistance, I mean, a little hint, Infinity will have more outside assistance. It's just a lot of fun because interacting with people is a lot of fun. And like I said, stories are important, and that there's just something fun about getting your friends or getting a stranger, or, it's just a lot of fun to interact with people. People are fun. And so, one of the things that's really interesting to me, what's happened over Magic's time is, what matters keeps changing as far as where's the focus. And this, right now, in Magic's life, this is the most casual-friendly Magic has ever been. There's more resources allocated. You started a whole team about casual play. We've never had this many resources allocated to let's make casual play as awesome as possible. And so I'm, as someone who loves casual play, it's really exciting to me to see that we're spending a lot more time and energy on this. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, also I would argue that this is the first time that we really know that casual play is a really important part of Magic. In the past, we're like, oh yeah, competitive Magic, that's what everybody's doing. That's what players care about. And we didn't really have a lot of visibility into how people interacted with Magic casually, especially years ago before the internet and social media and all that stuff. But now we see so many content creators, YouTube videos of Commander games and Commander podcasts. And I feel like Commander is everywhere, but I think casual play has always been everywhere. We just weren't really aware of it. It was not very visible to us, because for us, all we really saw was hey, here's some Magic coverage of competitive games, or that's kind of what people were talking about mostly on the internet. That's what the websites are all about, but I just feel things are just very, very different right now with how much of the Twitter community is talking about casual play and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's interesting because, so 1996 was when Ungaloo came out, right? And I remember at the time, I was like, guys, no, there's an audience that just loves doing goofy, fun things that, and it is just funny watching that sort of evolution. In R&D, we refer to the group as the Invisibles because there's a certain group of people that we have high exposure to, right? That, we through social media and through all data mining and this and that, there's a certain audience that we see very loudly. And for many years, there was this group that we just couldn't see. And that's why we called them the Invisibles. Our market research didn't see them. But we would sort of get offshoots of them existing. We could look at sales. There's things that would say we're missing something, but we didn't quite understand why. And so we've come a long way. The fact that we have much better understanding of who some of this casual audience is I don't know, to me, really cool as someone who's been at this forever, of trying to convince people they existed at a time when we didn't have the metrics to say they existed.
Yeah, like, yeah, it's super interesting because, like, there are some cards. So years and years ago, I worked at a game store, and, like, there were certain cards that were just so popular. Like, for example, angels or high mana value things or whatever. Just like, and it would always boggle my mind because I was like, wait, these cards are not playable in standard. I don't understand how people want them. But, like, they were more popular than, like, you know, the Chase standard rare at the time, you know, which was just at the time, as like, you know, this is years ago when I was a Pro Tour player and I didn't really have a lot of visibility into, like, casual Magic, you know. So it was just very weird to me, like, how are these angels flying off the shelves, you know, like, they're angels, they're not competitive standard cards. I don't get it, you know, but now I get it. Casual Magic is just popular.
And that's the other big thing is, like, this idea that casual Magic is somehow found. I believe casual Magic has always been a big part of Magic. I believe that from the very, very early days, it was there. It just was a matter of us having the tools to see it. And I think as we started making more products for it, so that more people could, like, part of making Magic is, from our side, is understanding an audience so that we can make a product for them. And then as we make products for them, we start seeing them more and more because the products exist for them to sort of react to.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I'm thinking about back when I first started playing Magic, and, like, I was not a competitive player. I started playing casual. Like, my first decks were cards I opened in booster packs, you know, and, like, people I played with, that was also their decks, you know, cards they own .deck is kind of what we call it sometimes. I didn't start playing competitively until years later, right? And, like, whenever I, like, ask somebody, you know, how did you get started in Magic? It's a very common story of, like, oh, I started playing casually with friends, and then I found out about the local game store and that kind of thing. But, like, think about how many people started playing casually with friends and, like, never found competitive Magic. You know, they just, like, play casually forever. It's, like, a huge number of people.
Yeah, so here's a stat I give to give people some idea. So we believe that under 10% of all Magic players have ever played in a sanctioned event. So, like, of the things we can see, like, we see sanctioned events, right? You play in a store or online or whatever. You play somewhere where we can see you playing. You know, we have some record. Like, that is a tiny, tiny percentage of the Magic play. And, like, it's funny. People often say to me, what's the most popular format? And my answer always is cards I own, right? That is the most popular format. That probably of structured formats, Commander is probably the most popular right now. But that is dwarfed by, I play the cards I own and I put them in a deck. That is the way most people, probably the majority of people, play Magic.
Yeah. I bought a couple packs and, you know, like, I opened a red-green multicolored card. Therefore, I build a red-green deck so I can play with this card I opened.
So it's interesting for me. I mean, one of the things that I'm happy with is that we're starting to sort of acknowledge this audience more. And, like I say, actively design for the audience in ways that in the past was harder to do. And I'm excited you have a team. Like, I'm super, like, on some level, I feel like I have new allies because, you know, a lot of my job is to come up with fun things, and then I have to argue with people whether they're fun or not. And so I love having more casual. Can you please back me up? This is a fun thing. People will enjoy this.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Like, we have a lot of very passionate people about Commander and casual play, like, very, like, vocal people. So, like, I'm sure they will be on your side about that kind of stuff, you know, like, they like, a lot of them love, like, fun and wild stuff. And, you know, we also, a lot of our team has experience playing competitively as well, you know, so we have a good understanding of, like, finding a balance between, like, the right rates for a competitive card versus, like, what will this do in Commander, and, like, will it be fun in Commander, and that kind of stuff.
And also, the other thing that your team gets to do is there is trying to cost cards correctly so that they're played in Commander in a way that's fun but fair. Like, that's something that play design has not been well suited for, just because it's a very different format from what they experience.
Yep. That is going to be a lot of what our team is going to be doing. Like, you know, our team just started. Like, it's January. Our team started literally in November. So like we are pretty new at this, but yeah, like we've worked on a couple of sets already. And like, yeah, that is a lot of what we're doing. Like a lot of it is like, what is the right rate for Commander? At what point in the game is it appropriate for this card to like come down and begin doing its thing, right? Like that is a lot of what we do, you know, like we're definitely trying to avoid cards that are just like snowbally, comes down too early and just kind of takes over a game. Like I can give a couple of examples. I don't know how we're doing on time,
well,
but an example.
Quick examples.
Oh, okay.
I can see my desk from here, so we're close to ending.
All right.
Give an example.
So an example of a card that we are trying not to make is something like Dockside Extortionist. Like that card scales like exponentially well in Commander. Like it comes down and like produces a gigantic amount of mana. And like one of the problems with that card is just its rate. It just comes down like too early in the game and gives you such a mana advantage that it's just kind of hard for other players to come back from. So one thing that our team is trying to do is to make sure cards like that have the appropriate rate, you know, because like it is fun to make cards that generate mana. Making mana is fun. Like cheating on resources is fun. We're going to do that, but we want to do it in a way that is like appropriate for everybody involved.
Yeah, that's the important thing that is funny is whenever people sort of say it's our job to like quantify fun on some level, like, you know, we have to make decisions. We have to cost things. We have to do concrete things. We're going to print a card. And that part of understanding fun is what's the right level? When should this happen? You know, there's a lot that goes into maximizing a card's fun.
Yeah, like we want it to be fun for like everybody involved, not just for the player casting it. Like I'm sure Dockside Extortion is lots of fun for the player casting it, but like then three other players at the table are like groaning and being like, oh, you know, what are you doing? So yeah, like we're trying to just find the balance of like, what is the correct cost that makes this card fun for all four players involved?
So anyway, as we said, I can see my desk from here, so we need to wrap this up here. So, a final thoughts on casual play before we wrap up for the day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just like really excited that our team is here now. Like we're going to be working on some awesome things. It's tough because there's a lot of things I can't talk about, and I really want to, but I can't. But like I'm really happy.
I feel your pain.
Commander is as popular as it is, and we get to make awesome Commander cards.
Yeah, I feel your pain. There's lots of awesome things that we can't talk about yet. But I'm so happy your team has gotten formed, and maybe we'll have you on in the future when we have more concrete. Once the public, we work years ahead, so like you know we're working something. Yep. You guys don't see it for a while, but maybe once the audience has seen some stuff, we can talk again. But so I want to thank you for joining us. This was it was fun talking casual play. Yeah,
it was fun. Thanks. It's been a while since I've been on this show, but thanks for having me again.
And you didn't have to drive in my car, so.
Oh, you're right. I could just sit here at home. Great.
I know. So anyway, by the way, Melissa was one of the few people who said, I want to be on your show. I will drive to your house so that I can sit in your car while you drive to work, which is dedication. Yeah. Only a few people did that, so.
And he lives far away from Wizards. Like, yes, believe me, I had to drive. I drove like, I don't know, 30 minutes or something.
Yes, that was some dedication. So I want to, nowadays I call people up. It's very easy to be on my podcast. So this is not the job. But Melissa was there when it meant something to be on my podcast. So I always appreciated that.
Nice.
But anyway, guys, I can see my desk. So we all know that means it's the end of my drive to work. So instead of talking magic, it's time for me to be making magic. So thank you once again, Melissa, for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
And I'll see all of you guys next time. Bye-bye.